there were two hearings in July. Between June and July, and I wanted to talk about training. So there are several trainings that we were anticipating attending, and utilizing the rest of the JAG grant that we received, which was $5,000. We utilized $2,000 to pay for our training, the 2 nights of training that we had, and so we had $3,000 left. So there was a force science, which deals with the science of force and things of that nature, and it was going to be in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was going to be in September. It was going to be late in September, but I have concerns now about traveling because the COVID numbers are increasing, and I just don't feel comfortable. So I'm looking for a virtual option. So I've sent an email. I thought I saw a virtual option on there, but then I went back today and I didn't see it. But I'm looking to see whether or not we have any virtual options. If not, we need to figure out how we spend the $3,000. That may be some other sort of training, because it would have to be spent before September. So it may be, you know, some sort of training that we have to try to figure out how to do. But if I were to have gone to the Nashville, Tennessee event, because the registration fee was $1,500, which is the most we've ever paid for a registration fee, that $3,000 would have went for a hotel, registration fee, and all of that kind of thing. So, yeah, so we're looking at other options. So pay attention to your emails and see what other options we may be able to figure out if there's no virtual option for that. The NACO, the National Association for Civilian Oversight and Law Enforcement, our national conference, that is happening in September as well. And they do have a virtual option and they have an in-person option. So I'm most likely going to take the virtual option again because it's in Texas and they can't mandate that you wear a mask. They can only suggest. And so every time that there seems to have been something where I should have attended and I didn't, there has been some sort of outbreak. And so I just would prefer not to have that to occur. So I'm looking for the rest of the year for anything that we can do virtually in terms of other than a large group like us or something of that nature, but like any sort of conference, I'm just a little bit concerned. Although they say the new variant is milder, like a cold, I just don't need to experience it.
It lasts longer from what I was told.
Yeah,
my manager had it, and it was more of a stomach, the tract. She had it for 12 days.
My nephew had it. It was
talking
not.
about somebody who was boosted, vaccinated, and everything.
Okay. So yeah.
You don't want it.
So yeah. So I'm not
What
trying.
about the other one that's usually in Connecticut in December?
That is usually in December, but that would be your next funding cycle.
Gotcha. Okay.
So speaking along the funding cycle, so we have been working with the grants department on our, funding stream. And so the grant that we are utilizing is for law enforcement programs, prosecution and court programs, prevention and education, corrections and community corrections programs for drug treatment and enforcement programs, planning and evaluation and technology improvement
Okay, so
for crime victims or witness programs or mental health. It also talks about criminal justice. So when it says police efforts to prevent crime and things of that nature, so that's how we qualify underneath the umbrella to seek the funding. So we are putting in another, they are putting in another application for the fiscal year 24 year, and so we just put in the information for that. We are going to utilize some portions for training again, and then we were able to get information that you saw in your email about billboards. And so a portion of that will be spent on a billboard, a couple of different junior billboards and things of that nature. Michael, our legal secretary, has been working on looking at where the complaints file, like where people are filing complaints in what areas, and where we should utilize a billboard in those particular target areas, and the cost of that. Looking at where the cops cameras are situated and things of that nature. And so look in your, you'll be getting an email sometime soon with a breakdown of that, so that we can make sure that when we put when we put our billboard up, it's going to be in targeted areas where we get the most complaints out of, or areas where it's close enough that we should still reach people in those areas where they typically have police presence a lot. So that's what we're working on to make sure we do that.
Can May have that email when you're done?
Or send me a copy
This
of
one?
it, yeah, so I can have it for minutes.
Also, one of the things that we were looking to do for the JAG grant as well is to offer to pay for the registration fee for the board chair or the board vice chair for the national conference for the next fiscal year. Looking at the ability to do that so that they can see, if they were to go in person, their hotel fees and their airfare and all of that would be on them. But the registration fee, which is usually about $650, would come out of that grant fund as well as part of the training, if we were able to do that, if we could try to send. And if it wasn't the board chair, we would look and see what board member was willing to go, you know what I mean, and utilize it for a board member's registration fee. So looking at ways to continue to utilize it for training. We have,
Can we just go back one second?
Yep.
The billboards we're gonna do instead of
instead of
the
the,
buses.
Central,
so we have funds to do
Or is
the
it different?
central,
Okay,
but the billboards cost more. We
Okay.
didn't have enough funds in the budget to do central and the billboard, so that's the reason why we advised that we would use portions of that other funding for the billboards, because we didn't have it alone.
okay, so we're looking to do both.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
But, and as you saw, the billboards are running, I was able to get some sort of public service pricing. And that made the billboards go down from a 4-week rate of $925 to $695 with a public service.
Good.
So we were able to work that out. So if we are gonna use them for a 4-week turnaround, so the billboard would be up, and we could do, they have like junior boards and they have other boards. So it looked like we could do like maybe 4 or 5 junior boards and like 2 big ones for the amount of like $3,000.
Is there a specific time, like time of the year when the big billboards will be on display, or is it
So-
just coming up? Is it,
It's just coming up because they just recently put in the new application.
okay.
So we should, be able to do it before the end of the year. But it's the timing of it all. The only other thing that I would say is that if we don't, I had to tell them what we were going to spend the remainder of the $3,000 on, and initially I told them that it was going to be for science training. The only other thing would be that if we decide that we're not gonna spend it on that, maybe I can tell her that we send an update to them and we utilize the rest of this 3,000 for now, and then, you know what I mean, for later to have them run again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of thing. That would be another option, because again, I just don't
Right.
think that it's wise to travel like that. So
No,
that
I
would be
get that.
something that if you guys would rather utilize it that way, if we had a quorum, you could vote on that.
Cliff should be here at some point, so,
So that would be something to consider.
yep.
Is the billboard like, we had one for Counselor Schultz, and it was like a rotating thing. It was like on for, you know, there was this, it would rotate with other ads. Is
Announcement,
this gonna
yeah.
be just one? that's there all the time?
So they sent us pictures.
Yeah.
They sent us pictures of the locations that,
Do you know how some, like, you look up and it says something, and then you
Yeah.
look up and it says something else? Did he say?
so I don't know enough about that, but that's a good question that I can ask if it's on one of those. But they sent us like pictures of the ones that they had options for, which was Butternut Street and Salina Street. And the North Salina Street, it was Clinton and Harold Place. It was Wolf Street. It was Burnett Avenue. And you guys had, yeah, so I sent all of these,
Yeah, I
but
just
I
didn't
can't,
print them.
I can't tell if these are the ones that are like floating.
Those are fixed ones from what I saw.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so too.
Okay. So do you want me to ask them about a rotating one, or do we prefer fixed?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Was the rotating one
Or a
cheaper? Do you
combination
know?
of both.
Like Harry knows, it's electronic. Like there's some, like, I don't even really pay attention, but like, you're driving down 690 and there's.
Erie
They
Boulevard.
just paint, you know, they paper one on and it's.
Yeah.
The younger people, I feel like just to appeal to catch the eye of the younger generation, that like
Location.
those rotating ones, they seem to,
But
like,
those are limited, just say.
yeah, those are limited. I understand that part as well.
Few between.
Yeah, no, I get
When
that
you
part.
say limited,
but-
you mean where they are located?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
and
that-
so it might not really work in a targeted area where we would want it to, or would it?
Well, I know there's one on the corner of West Fayette and Gaddis.
Okay.
What about the one off, that when you come off, coming into the highway off the east side by the U-Haul, coming into the highway? There's,
That's a standard one, right? Isn't the lady with the medical, or no?
I believe there's one that flashes right underneath the Enterprise, the car rentals place.
I'm not sure where you are.
Me either.
Like, so the
When
U-Haul,
you get off at Till exit?
Till Ave.
Oh,
There's a
Teal,
couple
okay.
stationary on
Yeah.
the way, 690 and that kind of.
Maybe you could just check with him and
Yeah,
see
I'll
if
see if
it's,
there's any
if there's a
flashes.
different
Stationary.
cost.
Yeah,
It
I like
might be
this. I like them
cheaper
both,
if they-
but I just, if we're trying to, like, you know, just, I know from a recent individual who purchased one. They got the steel one, and it looks good, but I feel like it would look. It just catches your eye more when they flash when
moving.
it's flashing at nighttime, because some don't have no real light
Right.
underneath them. So at nighttime you drive by there, you don't even see it. So, but those flashing ones, you could always see it, the visibility.
Yeah, just check with him and
So
see.
I'll check with Lamar on if any of these that he quoted is a flashing one. Yeah, that one over here by Till Ave, it wasn't, I don't think it was on here as a place. So that would be a question, that we would ask. I did like this one at 440 South Salina Street, which
Yeah.
was right by, the old Sears and, it's the old Sears and Robux building.
Yeah.
I think that would
That's a
attract,
good one.
that would attract a lot of people.
What about the one down in Valley?
It's not on here, but I know which one you're talking about, and I think that one actually, that one isn't a flashing one though. But yeah, we can look and see whether or not, but that was the only one out of the other ones, so that's why I asked, Michael to kind of look and see, so that we would know what, you know what I mean, what areas would be the best for us.
Right. Makes sense.
So,
So question
the
about
virtual,
Michael.
go ahead,
Full-time, temporary, full-time?
full-time,
Permanent or temporary?
yes, full-time.
Okay. The reason I asked is because I remember a conversation, and wasn't sure, there was some lady that worked through some organization that volunteers, so I didn't know if he was,
Nope, no longer with us,
He's hired.
oh, and she's no longer with us?
correct.
Okay.
So we are, just so you have the dates for the, in-person conference, it was gonna be September the 11th through the 15th. And then the virtual conference, they have several different dates in October, November, October and November, where they have different sessions. And so it was just 3 days. So it would be a little bit different, but, you know, it's another option of still getting something. But yeah, I just don't think it's wise to go to Texas at this point in time. And even Nashville, at this point in time.
How old is your baby?
9 months yesterday.
Yeah, probably should sit down.
Yeah, so, yeah, so that is, I think, the end of my report. Since we can't vote on anything, I think we'll move down, to community outreach and public education. All right, so, I sent you guys an email about the, public outreach that we have going on. Just please let us know by responding via email as to which dates you can attend and how long. If we could commit at least an hour, hour and a half, you know what I mean, on a particular day, that would be great. So that then when we start to build some camaraderie between all of the board members in the same room, because I know that it's been rough virtually, other than seeing you on, for the most part, we were on WebEx for a while, so just trying to kind of build that. Board development and training.
Oh, I have a question about outreach.
Go ahead.
The various TNTs, and I don't know how many of them, is it possible to get those cards or literature to the TNT meeting, monthly meeting, so that they're on the
Yeah, so I get an email when they are about to occur. Like I know what days of the month that they occur, so yeah. But is the board member in that particular area going to go to that TNT and provide the materials?
I
Can
would.
you drop it off?
Yeah.
Sure, I could drop it off.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm just saying, because, yeah, so we can provide that. I am trying to limit the amount of outreach materials that we make, just because I don't know when the move is going to happen, and then we would have to redo them again. But we do have some, we just got some more pocket cards in English and Spanish. So we just did that, so we will be able to do that. And I haven't changed the back of the brochure for all of the new board members yet, because I know we still have one more vacancy, but we do have enough labels to fix some of them, because I've been a little bit leery about handing them out with the wrong information, just in case people try to reach out to board members that are no longer on there. So I've been kind of leery about putting brochures, but the pocket cards just have my information and the office name on there, so we could do the pocket cards, yeah. So we can provide that to them.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question in regards to the brochures? Is there like at least plans in getting translation into like those dialogues in the New American communities?
So we do have the brochures, not the brochures, we do have the complaint form that's been translated into Spanish. When I'm out in the field and I am investigating cases, I utilize language line.
Okay.
So when we are speaking to people, I can then have, them, you know, I can call it on my phone and have them, but we have money in the budget for translation services, we just have not utilized it. We have spoke about, doing something with the county, to have them translated, but my issue is that our current brochure has too many words. And the cost to translate all of the words on our current brochure is going to be astronomical opposed to our budget.
No one wants to read that brochure.
Correct. So therefore, we need to think about something else that we would utilize to give people some of the information that's in the brochure, but not a brochure like that. And maybe it's a pocket card that we get translated into all of the different languages, because that would be cheaper than it would be our brochure. Has everybody seen the brochure?
I have.
But yeah, it is way too long. You saying it?
Appreciate it.
Pass those around the table. But it is way too long to be translating all of that for the price that we have.
I'll take a stab at it.
So we have tried to have someone take a stab at it for
I'll do it.
multiple years now, to try to figure out what we can eliminate in there so that we can just provide them with a synopsis as to what we do and why you should call us. And that's what I think we need to translate into multiple languages. But that's not what we really want to do.
Yeah, it's too much information. I mean, not gonna.
I mean, this is really good for someone who wants to know the history and what we
Yeah,
real,
I
you
think
know,
you
the
just
nuts
need
and bolts.
One
And
side, you know, for complaints, if you're dealing
Yeah.
with the police, just
this is who you call, right?
call.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
this is-
why we
this-
have
so this is
not
like-
had it translated in Spanish or in any other language, because it's way too much. But we do have pocket cards that we use, and that has been translated to Spanish, and we do have the complaint form translated. When we are able to get the complaint form on the website, so that people can file complaints electronically, it's going to kind of act just like the city website, where you can choose your language and should be able to do that, but then hopefully send it to us in English, but we're working on that.
When you say working on it, where are you at?
So, our last intern, so back up. Roberto completed the form, somehow the form got lost, so then we had to have our intern to start it back over again. Our intern is no longer here, so now we have to pick it back up, and that's not something Michael or I have time to do. So, we have had an intern from the city to update our website with the meeting minutes and things of that nature from the previous years, and then I need to reach back out to them to continue to give them stuff to update.
So I met someone at a TNT meeting recently, and he does updating for probably the same thing that open data.
Yeah,
Sure.
Open Cities?
Do you think that's something that if you sent to them, that they would, since they're out there in it anyway?
Well, that would be the thing. The city would have to provide them with the login information in order to do it, because if not, then I'm not sharing my login information to, you get what I mean? So they would have to somehow coordinate permissions. We are looking to get more interns, which we always do. There is a person of interest for a public health intern that is involved in public health, and they are looking to intern with us. School should be starting up again. We'll get another political science intern. So we will look at what avenues that we can do to try to get that set up. But that's where we were. We were already in there, and somewhere on the back end, it might be
Is it
retrievable.
a conversation that you can just ask them, since
Yes.
based on what I saw, he needs something else to put on there other than where the crimes are happening in the city of Syracuse.
Yeah. So,
That's
so,
what- that was his highlight. He was
That's
so
all he's
excited about where the crime was being committed and near.
do you know what that person's name is?
I know
You want me to look at the minutes for what TNT meeting were you at? Southside?
innovation.
Yeah, Southside, okay, I'll look at their meeting minutes.
Okay.
But that's where we are as it relates to that. But the intention is to have complaints filed electronically, which will help some of those people who cannot make it down here, but also just as a means of, easier transmission to the office.
In regards to that, which may don't look at the city website or Facebook page, when we go to do more advertising or billboard, can we make it known for these millennials who maybe that is there? I don't know how you wanna put it there.
Yeah, so
but
we would
make
be
it-
able to put the CRB website on there or something of that nature for them to be able to do that. We would be able to, target it in a way. It would be nice to get a QR code, is it?
Yes.
Where you could just scan it, like have a QR code at the corner of the billboard that would allow them to just scan it. So that's another way. We can figure out how we get a QR code for the table, for outreach events where people can just scan it that way.
That'll be cool. Easy
So,
access.
yeah, so we can try to figure out ways like that. I know that it's just been a little bit rough because the website was still under construction, so I wasn't really trying to, direct people there when there was
That's been
hardly
very frustrating for you.
nothing there, so. But yes. Board development and training, I sent an email around about a virtual training that's happening through NACO called Policing Regulation and Oversight Trends, Problems, and Solutions. And it's happening on August the 16th. You still have time to tell me that you would like to attend, and so that I can pay the fee for it. It's usually $15, and we cover that cost. So please look and see. I know it should be 1 o'clock, I believe, on the 16th.
From 1 to 2.
From 1 to 2. So let me know if you are able to take that lunchtime and listen to that, because I think that that's important. Government relations, we are making progress with trying to gather back around with the members of the administration, meaning Corporation Council, to sit back around the table again and just make sure that everybody's on the same page, as we've had a few transitions. So once that date has been solidified, we will then let you know. Police Liaison Committee, the next meeting is August 31st at 10:30 in the morning. The next meeting is November 30th. I figured I'd put it on here so that you can mark your calendars. If you have joined that, they will all be in the Chiefs Conference Room on that particular day. So I wanted to put those on there so you had them already, because we have them only once, we have them one time a quarter. So that's why they're spaced out like that. So usually every time that a quarterly report is ready to go. So
For that one, I'm thinking, when you and I talked about some of the things we wanted to talk about at that next meeting, maybe we could send some of those over to them ahead of time.
absolutely,
And then that way they can't say, we'll get back to you. Well, they can still say, we'll get back to you,
Right.
but at least
they'll have at
they'll
least,
have-
right.
they
yeah.
might have some idea.
So send me an email with the refresher things that you want.
Oh,
me
yeah,
to-
I might refresh where you
So-
wrote it down, but
Okay.
So when you attend these meetings, because I will not, based on the time of day it is, what is it like?
So typically we have a member of the union there, we have a member of the training squad there, the chief of police is always there, and we talk about what has happened in the quarter with regard to cases, any particular cases that we have concerns about, policies and things of that nature. We put them on notice kind of as it relates to that, and we talk candidly about just how we think that it's going or not going.
So since there's nobody in here, this being recorded?
So we will discuss any progress we're making as it relates to hearings, but we also do that in our monthly meeting with the chief. We do all of that at the same time. we have a transparent conversation about those kinds of things. So I have a meeting coming up with Chief Cecil as our monthly meeting, so we will talk about some of the hearing stuff that has most recently occurred. And we will talk about anything else that you send me that you would like to be discussed.
Okay.
So send me an email. Cliff says he'll be here in 5 minutes.
Good.
So does like Chief
That was
Cecil?
3 minutes ago.
Will he like comment on?
Yes.
Like like that letter you sent about the Shaylin Moore thing from Melissa? Will he comment on that?
Yes, in that meeting. If we send them it ahead of time or if we have specific questions, yeah, he will comment on, you know what I mean? But typically we have responses that come in writing.
Yeah.
And that's how we typically, because based upon our legislation, any findings, response as to you agreeing or you disagreeing, needs to come in writing from him. And so we have about 10 or 12, how many cases? We have about 10 or 12.
Seemed like a
About 10
lot.
About 10 cases in which we're looking for responses that were cases that were held back in 2021. But again, remember, I went out on maternity for 12 weeks, so there was that time and some of the cases that we had concerns about, the responses that we had started to get, and so they just have to revamp a few things.
So even with Lori being your backup during maternity leave, that was a legit excuse for things not moving along?
They didn't send me anything.
They didn't send any during that period of time. And I mentioned the fact that we were owed some, but they also had a transition, not to, you know what I mean? So they were having to relook at how they were responding when they started to respond backwards.
Can you?
So the legislation says that you are supposed to state, if you disagree with the board's decision, you're supposed to state why. And they had started to say that they disagreed with the board's decision because their department had unsubstantiated the complaint. That's not a legit response. So therefore, we had to write a letter to them and say, hey, based upon the legislation, your response does not comply with the requirements of the legislation, so we need new letters. So then there was a change. You get what I'm saying? So there was a couple of things that occurred that just didn't get us back on the right footing, so we're owed about 8 to 10.
You just said a whole lot of who shot John and didn't make any sense to me.
Okay, so we send the hearing findings to the chief, and we say
I
that,
got all
you
that
know,
part, but the reasoning why things didn't move along while in her absence and you were there.
I wasn't there. I was handling day-to-day
That's what I'm
phone
saying.
call things.
Right, and so not sending,
Communications between Chief Buckner and Raynette.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So although they had the stuff and they just needed to respond, it just didn't occur while I was out, because sometimes I have to remind them that we still need this. And so from November, because you think about it, I went out right after our last hearing in 2021, like 2 days after, for which we didn't even get a findings letter out until this year for that hearing. Okay? So,
So they didn't really have anything to respond to while she was out.
Got it.
because there were no hearings, but they just had outstanding ones that could have been worked on, yes.
So they
But
don't
the-
have,
But
they don't
they
have no
didn't.
obligation to
That's
send you the
what
ones
I-
they already had?
But that's
Like,
what
they
I'm
don't-
saying though, because we have the investigator doing some stuff, so things could
Correct,
have been.
but they were not, he was investigating, but we did not have any hearings. They
So-
respond to the hearing
Oh.
letter.
So
not-
we didn't have any hearings while I was out, so therefore there wasn't a reminder. You know what I mean? Usually in the email, when I send them the findings letter, I'll say, oh yeah, by the way, we still have, you know what I mean? You still have outstanding findings letters that we still need. Add this one to the list. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Your question about an obligation, so
Yeah.
based upon the current legislation, they are obligated to respond to our findings letters. I do not believe it gives you a specific time that they're supposed to respond to your findings letter, but it just says that they have to respond with a why they agree or disagree. So, again, the way the system works is that someone has to keep track of it, and typically that is the person sending the findings letter to remind you, we are still missing this.
Well, that should kind of be changed. There should be some
Tardiness, folks.
time frame, right? There should be
There should be.
specified time frame. Not that they,
would have to
somebody's still
do
got to track
ordinance.
that too. but-
Right.
That's one more thing that should be changed in the ordinance, but
Okay.
we haven't really sat down and done that. And I think it's like any other governmental thing. It says they have to do it, but there's nothing that says this is what happens if you don't.
Okay.
You know, I mean, there's
Well, I mean,
there's no quote unquote punishment if they don't.
but technically there is, because when we had to sue the city for them not complying with that, it did state that, you did have an obligation to do that, but it didn't say that you must respond within 30 days or sanctions can be applied. It didn't say anything like that, but it did say that you must respond. And so I typically give them a little bit of time to respond. Usually it's within 30 days. You know what I mean? Usually it is within 30 days. But I'm just saying that it just happened to be that no reminders were kind of made, and, we were getting ready for maternity, so. Because our last hearing in 2021 was like the 28th of October. And then he was born November 2nd. So there was really no, so yeah. But I don't think it tells them a deadline in the
30
legislation.
days.
Yeah, so they were usually complying within 30 days, from the date of their receipt. But then we had the issue with how they were responding, so then they were gonna have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how you respond differently. So that just took a little longer than I anticipated. But that's why we follow up.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, everything in our legislation has 30 days, but sometimes 30 days is appropriate to an extent, and sometimes it's not.
Okay, so where are we getting back on track?
So again, I sent an email most recently advising them advising them what they are missing, so that they know which ones they're missing, and told them to let me know. So I did get an acknowledgement that we are in receipt of this, and we know we need to respond.
Okay.
Okay.
She just sent out a bunch of emails to this week.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so did we want to go
Back to the,
budget
money.
stuff?
Yeah,
Okay, so,
I'll do it.
okay,
All right, we've got, through the grant money that we get from the Federal Justice Department, correct? We get $5,000 a year for training and that sort of stuff. Usually we do, RANET goes to several events, being that the main one that's coming up is gonna be in Nashville. She would prefer to do that virtually, so the cost is not gonna be what it would have been had she gone there physically. So we spent the $2,000 for our training, so that leaves $3,000. We are getting money for the next year also, where we're gonna pay for billboards. So I would entertain a motion to take the remainder of the 5,000, because it might cost you some to
No, it'll
register
just be
virtually,
like-
right?
yeah, it might cost me, yeah,
Yeah,
so,
so whatever's left after registering for the virtual conference, to spend on billboards.
Yeah, billboard or something of that nature.
And we had the discussion on the cost of the billboards and all that stuff before the two people that just got here, so I would prefer not to have that whole discussion again unless you have real specific questions.
That's cool.
Because you all got emails about it too, so.
I'll
So I would
second it.
entertain a motion.
Motion.
I'll
Second,
second it.
any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. And then I would take a motion to adjourn, to go to executive
Well,
session.
do you have to make another motion about what we're gonna spend the $5,000 on, or is that gonna be covered in that one too? Should we just break it up?
No.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Okay, a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
Okay, we'll go to executive session.
So we'll go, ahead. Yeah. Go to executive session and take care of that, and then we'll be done.